Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another episode of Clause YouTube channel Strategic Frontlines. Today we have from Nepal, Dr. Pramod Jaiswal. He is the research director at NICE and is also an alumnus of NISA, NDU Washington. He has authored, edited books on China and South Asia. Please also welcome Maj Gen Dhruv Katoch. He's the director at India Foundation, and he was previously the director of CLAWS. He shapes discussions on strategic and security affairs. I welcome both of our guests to this podcast.
Thank you.
Today, we will discuss the current situation under the Prime Minister. After a very violent revolution, there is a new interim government in Nepal. And it is the first women Prime Minister in Nepal, Ms. Sushila Karki, who was sworn in on September 12th. And she's a former Chief Justice. And we know her to be very strict as far as corruption cases are concerned. She has a very strong anti-corruption stand. She is quite clear in her agenda as of now. Firstly, to ensure stability and to have fresh parliamentary elections in March 2026. So first, I would like to ask Dr. Jaiswal, how is the situation in Nepal now? Is it under control? And also, can you describe the new leader? How is she? And has she been accepted by all the factions?
Thank you, Dr. Khanijo, for the kind invitation. It's a pleasure to join this conversation. As far as the situation is concerned, things are under control. Now, security, law and order is under control. Army has moved back to barrack. So we have a new home minister today. The prime minister was announced 2 days ago, and she is like known as a very strong leader, you can say. And now she's a prime minister, so she can be called a strong leader. She has been a chief justice in the past, and she has raised strong voice against corruption and many of the issues. So on top of that, like she's a lady, so I think it would be easier for her to handle the situation. Because she knows the sensitivity of the situation at the moment. She is proposed by Gen Z, so she is well accepted. So that is the beauty of that she is respected by the protesting parties. At the same time, the political parties are also not objecting to her. In one way, everyone has welcomed her. Only difference is that the political parties are saying that it was unconstitutional, so it should have been followed a different turn altogether, or different process should have been followed. But still, like, no one has objected. Everyone has wished her good luck for the tenure, and she's also got wide international support. She have been welcomed by Indian Prime Minister Modi, congratulated by China, US. In fact, for the first time in the history, I believe, I can't recall any other evidence that she has been also wished by His Holiness Dalai Lama. So it's like very welcoming. This shows that she has a wide respect globally. On top of that, three members who have been part of her team are very charismatic. We have Kulman Gising, who was supposed to be, who was also in the PM race. He is very fine bureaucrat who was able to resolve the electricity crisis that we had suffered since long. We used to have 18 hours power cut. And during his tenure, he was able to provide surplus electricity. He was able to have transmission of electricity from Nepal to India and Bangladesh. So he is known for that. Multiple ministries are under him at the moment. We also have a lawyer who is a good lawyer, who is a home minister. We have very finest finance minister. So I think it's a very good team. But what we can expect is that probably some more youth might be joining the team. Because I think there will be more people joining very soon. So it's a good start at the moment. There's lots of enthusiasm, lots of hope among the people. At the same time, there's lots of support in one sense. And I think she'll be able to deliver in that sense, because she don't have too many mandates. She have one, that she have to hold election in March, which she has promised, and also bring some kind of governance and corruption control. And it looks from her team that they are very committed. So today, in the first meeting, all of them sent very good signals that they said that they'll fight their best. Many have said they don't want the salary, they will not take any of the VIP perks, all those vehicles and all. So I think this is kind of setting a trend. I mean, this will also put pressure on the other leaders in coming days. Thank you.
It's a very positive analysis what you have given here. So I would like to bring in here General Katoch. Firstly, General Katoch, your initial remarks, as also what does this shift in power away from traditional political elite means for India?
Thank you, Dr. Roshan. Now, of course, we've heard the perspective from Dr. Jaiswal, and I appreciate that. I mean, he's speaking from the country, and he has got a perspective. But let me give you a different opinion. You see, in my view, what has happened in Nepal is something which should never have happened. You have got the youth out. I'm not sure who was leading them. I'm not sure who was motivating them. I'm not even sure whether there was external influences, whether there was some hand of certain agencies abroad to create chaos in this land, in Nepal. And for us, it is a matter of concern, because India and Nepal don't just share a geographical border. We share history, we share families, we share culture, we share language, we share religion. Is there any aspect of life which we don't share with Nepal? So anything which happens in Nepal is a matter of concern to us. Now, I can understand there is unrest. I can understand there is joblessness. All that is fine. But will somebody kindly explain to me, in the rest of the globe where conditions are far worse, why doesn't this happen? Why doesn't it happen in Pakistan? Why doesn't it happen in Afghanistan or any other country where, you don't throw out a government in a non-democratic manner in the name of democracy. So the very act of overthrow of this government is against the tenets of democracy. There were other means. You could have got this government down by sheer street protest, firm street protest. The government would have been forced to resign. But you don't do that. You destroy everything. You've destroyed your own buildings. You've destroyed your parliament. You've destroyed your judiciary. You've gone and killed the wife of a former prime minister, an 80-year-old lady. These people have committed murder on the streets in the name of Generation Z. It's a very sad day for Nepal. Let us not cover it up by any language to say that what these protests were democratic protests. They were not democratic. That is one. Now, you see, one of the problems which Nepal has faced, I just want to because this is an important point, Ultimately, when we are looking at problems and solutions, we have to find out what is the fundamental problem. Why hasn't Nepal, after they overthrew the monarch, why haven't they had political stability? That ultimately is the root of the problem. Because you are politically unstable, because everybody is fighting amongst each other politically, administration will always suffer. That is the bottom line. You need a firm polity at the top to deliver. We haven't had that firm polity. And one of the reasons is built into the constitution itself. Because as per this constitution, 60% of the seats, of the 275 seats, 165 seats, that is 70%, that is 60%, it is through the electoral process, that is first come, first past the post system. That is correct and fair. So those people who are elected, they have actually gone to the field, they have fought, and they have been elected by the people. And if they don't perform, the next 5 years, they will say, okay, thank you very much, we don't want you. But then in a bid to give representation to every segment of society, you have given 40% of seats which are elected through the proportional representation system. Now, what this really means is that political party will say, okay, the voting is done for a political party, and based on the number of votes each political party gets, the balance 110 seats will be divided. But who gets those seats will be determined by the party, which means that the party can dish out seats. So you give it to your favorites, You don't have to give it to anybody who is deserving, and anybody whom you owe favors, you give it to them, and then those people to whom you have given those seats are naturally they are indebted to you, and that is 40%. No, I think that is something, it'll never work. You will always get an unstable government. In this data which I've got, there are 12 parties. Now, I'll just read out the seats: 89, 78, 32, 20, 14, 12, 10, 6, 4, 3, 1, 1. This is the number of seats which they have got, and 5 have gone to independents. Now, for 275 seats, if you want to form a majority, no 2 political parties can do it. No 3 parties can do it. So, you ultimately get everybody together. And when you get everybody together, you get opposing ideologies. So this is going to be a problem. Now, the first thing is the way the government has been formed, with due respect to the Prime Minister, Sushila Karkiji. She is a very respected figure and she will do her best. I have no doubts about that. She has got integrity. Her chosen team, the 3 people, Rameshwar Prasad, Kulman Dhishing and Om Prakash Aryal, all people with great integrity. Yes, all that is given. But the question is now you have to administer. You have to actually get down. You've got 6 months. In 6 months, I'm afraid no government can do it. And the very fact that they have been placed into this position through an undemocratic process, it is not part of the constitution. It means that the constitution of Nepal is effectively dead. Now, because the constitution is dead, they will have to revoke or rewrite a new constitution. It has taken them years to make this constitution. I really don't know how long they will go to make the next one. So there are tremendous challenges in front of Nepal. But what has happened now, I think the best we can hope for, and I'm being very honest, the best we can hope for is let there be stability, let there be no violence. Let not children get out on the streets and start burning property, which is their own property. Who goes out if a child is upset in his house? They don't brash their own television set and burn their beds and kill their mothers. That is exactly what they have done to their country. So I think this is a sorry state of affairs. I hope stability comes because wiser counsel should prevail. And let not external forces start influencing what is happening in Nepal. They are a very proud people. They are a great people. They are the friendliest of all people. And I've had familial relations with them. Not for a year or 2 years, for decades now. And I can vouch for that. So from my personal side, and I think on behalf of every Indian, we want Nepal to prosper. We want Nepal to grow. And I'm very glad that the Prime Minister has actually reached out in support. That, okay, we will do what we want. We will not get involved. But anything required for the people of Nepal, this Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of India will give. That there is no doubts in my mind. There'll be full help will be given without appearing to give it because the people of Nepal, as I said, are very proud people. They don't want help in that manner. So I hope they get stability and any assistance they require from us as neighbors. I'm quite certain the government of India under Prime Minister Modi will deliver. Roshan.
Dr. Jaiswal, there were 2-3 points which have been highlighted in this. Firstly, General Katoch was speaking about the revolution, how it went off. Do you feel that it was a, normal kind of a revolution? Or there was something else to it, some foreign hand or something of that sort? Was the first question is this. Second question, important question which General Katoch stated was, there has to be stability in Nepal, which is very essential. Now, as we know that the next election is going to be in March. So do you feel that this revolution has basically changed the political landscape? Will there be any emergence of new political forces? Now, even if the new political forces come, the third point which General Katoch stated, what about the constitution and the electoral reforms? So, do you think there will be, during this period, any constitutional or electoral reforms which would be taking place so that the next election when it takes place, the result when it comes out, there is a bit of stability? Because he rightly pointed out, after the monarchy until now, we find 12 to 13 elections taking place. So what are your views on all these points?
Thank you, Roshan. I really appreciate General Katoch's remark. I agree on most of his remark. There are few corrections to be made as well, because Indian channels spread some misinformation that, for example, the wife of a former PM was killed. She is still alive. She's in a hospital. She's recovering. But many of the Indian channels came on the screen and they said she's no more, and I corrected them on many of the channels. So, but it was very violent. We know that lynching, violence was not in the interest of Nepal, and that is not what the youth want. Basically, we have to understand how this movement started. It was young people, 13 to 28 years, who came on the street demanding corruption control. And before that, they had demanded through social media. The social media was banned, so they came on the street asking, open the media, social media, and address our demand, which is corruption, which has been there. So the response of the state was 19 bullets. I think that was the very unfortunate. Never in the history of Nepal, 19 people has been killed in a single day. Even during war era, during war it has happened, but even neither Maoist nor the police killed 19 civilians. So it was very unfortunate that the state fired 19 bullets on young students. Many of them were teens. They were in school uniform, and that was very devastating. That's why many of us who don't belong to Gen Z, or who are not young, who has nothing to do with movement, many of them who are not even Nepal, came on support of that. That's one. That we said that a student has the right to demand a corruption-free Nepal in a peaceful way, and the state has no right to shoot 19 bullets. And next day the violence started. First day, not a single violence was from the protester side. Second day that happened, that the house of the politicians and all the property were damaged, where even the former prime minister and his wife was injured. So, but still, lynch and violence is not in the interest of the people, nor we support. And even students said that there was anti-national forces that entered into that. We have to find the evidence. We are not aware. Investigation will take place. Second, stability is important for Nepal. Obviously, for any country, stability is most important. The only reason that Nepal has not developed so far is because of lack of stability. So that is very important. But again, this is very challenging for Nepal, because Nepal is a small country between many great powers. At the same time, in a very short time, Nepal has got multiple transitions. You know, India has one constitution since 1947, and India has one. We have got seven constitutions, in that 70 years. So that is one, that in every 10 years our constitution is changed. India has got few prime minister. I think we can count them on a finger. The amount of prime minister that India has got in 70 years, we have got in 10 years. That shows in lack of stability. There are lots of photos in Nepal where they say that Prime Minister Modi, and we have multiple prime minister meeting Modi only. Modi has served 3 terms, and we have like 10 prime minister within that term. So that's very important, that we have to have a stability. Second, the corruption is so deep that it's unimaginable. Like Gen Katoch was talking about proportionate representation. Nepal has a very unique system of having proportionate representation, and that was to encourage those groups like women. They cannot come to politics immediately. Marginalized groups, Janjatis, lower caste people, they don't have that political number and all, and they can always be marginalized. So that was created for those people. But what happened? The main political parties, they started putting their spouse, children, daughter, relative, son-in-law, brother-in-law, all those people in that. So that is what open corruption was there. That was hitting the people. In Nepal, not all the ambassadors come from Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They used to sell it to some businessmen, some business houses, some professors for certain amount of rupees. So that is so open that it is very difficult for youth to sustain that. Now, coming to your last question, what is the change? Has change taken place? Yes, change has taken place. I think the first change is that there is fear among the leaders, that we have to fear the people. If you don't deliver, we have to fear. If there is corruption, we have to fear. So that is the biggest message that youth has sent, that you can't do everything and get out of it. You can't control corruption control, you can't control judiciary, you can't control police, and then you can say, oh, there's nothing to worry about. People still have many ways to punish you if you don't deliver. That is a clear signal I think youth have sent, and we are fearful for that. I'm scared today that I mean, anything can happen to me if there is something that I do which is not moral or something that hurt the state. I'm scared of that. What I speak, I have to think before. What I do, I have to think twice. So that is the biggest change that we can see. Second, with the youth coming into picture, I think more young faces. Obviously, the current cabinet has many senior people, but what is bound to see is that more young faces will be in the parliament in coming days. You know, uh, one of the major demand of political part of Gen Z was that these same old people, Purchanda has been prime minister 4 5 times, Deva has been 4 5 times, Oli has been 4 5 times. Same people are rotating since 20 years, and they're not delivering, and they're not allowing young leader from their own party to come to power. Not the young leader of each party was not able to break that barrier. So now, at least what Gen Z has done is that they have allowed space for their own young people of those parties to come front. So let's be assured that when the election is after 6 months, you'll find more young faces. You'll not find Prachanda coming into picture. Rather, Prachanda will field his own young faces. You'll not find Oli. Rather, he'll bring his own young leaders. So that is the major change. You can see that youth at least will be represented. I don't know how effective they will be. How better they will be in delivery. That is questionable. Even it is questionable for Gen Z whether Gen Z will deliver. So I think that, but at least the young will get opportunities. So that is the major change. Other is that the country, the lavish life that one generation was enjoying, where the whole country, that is very frustrating for the youth. Millions of Nepalese are migrating outside for job. So that trend, country has now realized that the youth demand are most important and most urgent, where the focus will lies. Otherwise, the focus was on serving the interests of the business class. So that is the major change. Last, coming on the constitution, obviously the change that has come from the street. When Maoists came from the jungle, they did not recognize the constitution. They overthrew the constitution. When we got democracy, we don't recognize the constitution drafted by the king. So when there is one major change from the street, we don't recognize the constitution. But we know how difficult it is to make a constitution. We have realized recently. So there is a mid path where we said that let's save the constitution, at the same time accommodate the protesters. So there are some lapses in the constitution, but we are lucky that we have saved the constitution. There might be some changes, it can happen, but at least we have saved the constitution. We are democracy, we still have feudalism, republic and secular. So at least the basic essence of constitution remains. And this Gen Z said we are not against constitution. We are just in favor of corruption-free society. We are fine with democracy, we are fine with feudalism. We just want a kind of stability and corruption-free society. I think there the focus will lies on. Again, how much they will be able to deliver, they are questionable. In the process, there are lots of churning and all. I think we have to be prepared for that. Thank you.
General Katoch, I would like to bring you here. We know that Nepal, India, and China is a triangle which is very complex. How will it be shaped, in your opinion, under the new leader? Do you feel we have an opportunity to strengthen ties with Nepal, considering we had officially welcomed this government and the Prime Minister Modi had also spoken very highly about Prime Minister Karki? So what are your views about it?
India has always had a very soft corner for Nepal. And as far as the political leadership in India is concerned, it doesn't matter which government was in power in Delhi. Every time Nepal has been viewed with a very, very favorable lens. As I said, it is not just a border, it is family. And anything which happens in Nepal, it is something happening in my family. It is that close. The roti beti ka rishta jisko bolte hai, So to that extent, the political opinion will always support Nepal. As far as the people of India are concerned, they've got the best of friendship with Nepal. There has never been a problem, regardless of anything happening in Nepal, with the people of India viewing Nepal disfavorably. The people of Nepal may view India disfavorably because of political compulsions. And their political leadership has always played that game. To get into power, you whip up anti-India sentiments. You want the other. So it is very convenient. I can understand that. Nepal is a small country hedged in between two powerful, they've got Tibet on one side and then they've got India on the other. And Tibet is controlled by China. So we have that great power play, going on. So by and large, we found the political leadership in Nepal has always hedged its bets. They have played one against the other, trying for a better deal amongst themselves. Now, I can understand that. And that game, I have a feeling will continue. But from the Indian side, we are not going to play that game. We are not going to play the game that, okay, because we are going to be friendly with you, you will not be friendly with China. Nepal must be friendly with whomsoever it desires to be. They can have the best of relations with China, with the United States, and with India. All that I'm interested in is we don't want either the Americans or the Chinese to control their foreign policy.
Yes.
And in this particular case, you see the way the Bangladesh spilt out of control, a direct American hand. The way Nepal has spilt out of control, it is not indigenous. The movement is indigenous, yes. They were Gen Z. You know, these young boys and girls, they were upset. I've got no doubts about that. But when you want to, and I'm telling you as a practitioner, you know, as an armed forces person who has spent his life in security, if you have to go out and burn a particular building, it cannot just be done by some few ragamuffin people just going, okay, let's do it. It requires organization. It requires skill. It requires planning. It requires forethought. And all that came into play here. When they went to selected targets, it was planned. They knew what they were doing. The young boys and girls may not have known what is happening. But their movement has taken over. And I'm afraid they are responsible for every bit of death. Now, Dr. Jaiswal is very rightly has said 19 people dead is 19 too much in the police firing. I totally agree. It is unacceptable. But 40 more people have died after that in the riots. That is unacceptable too. And we cannot condone it on the basis of Gen Z. You know, give it a nice name. Gen Z protest. It is not Gen Z protest. It is Gen Z destruction of their own country. And I think we must get the wordings right. It is unacceptable. So what they have done is wrong. It must be accepted, especially by the leadership which is going to come out. And that lesson must go to the youth. There is a way to protest. You can get the leaders out and very correctly hold the leaders accountable. But that doesn't mean that you burn down your own institutions. That is the wrong way to do about it. Get to the streets, tell them out, and they will have to go. We've done that in the United States when President Nixon had to go, and he went. But did they burn the streets? Did they burn their parliament? Did they burn their Senate? So I think we have to be, as citizens, we have to be responsible. Whether it is Nepal or India or any other country, we need justice, and that is fundamental. And I appreciate the desire of Gen Z to say, yes, we want justice. Yes, they want justice. It has been denied to a very large segment by a few people cornering all the wealth. I hope that changes. I'm not too sanguine because when these young people get into administration, as we have seen in Bangladesh, the system has collapsed. They're not administrators. They're barely kids, you know, with 30 years. They've got no experience of running even a small little shop of their own. And now you want to run a huge country. You want to run a foreign policy. You want to run all that. It doesn't work that way. You require experience. So some of them, yes, you need the youth. You also need the people in the middle ranks, and you need the senior lot. You need a mix of all three so that the young can be groomed to take up leadership roles. The people in the 30s and the 40s should be the leaders of tomorrow. That means a decade from now, we can have a young Prime Minister of Nepal, 45 years old. Yes. And I think that will be a very welcome development. But you have to train him for leadership now. You have to train her for leadership now. And if we can do that, it'll work well. So, as I said, you know, to the people of Nepal, my very best wishes. I want this country to be stable. They are not going to be economically prosperous in the next 6 months. Please forget about it. No new jobs are going to be created. No new structures are going to come up. But if they can achieve stability for 6 months, that would be an outstanding achievement. And that is what they should aim for. Let us keep our country stable. Let it simply run the way it has been running without corruption for 6 months. And then have a new dispensation coming up and hold those people accountable. Nepal has got the potential to be the Switzerland of Asia. Now, work for those dreams. It is not to say that, okay, we are a hill-bound country, there are no jobs, so our youth are going out. You can create those jobs there. Create those jobs instead of asking anybody for help. Everything is available, but leadership is required. Can the youth provide it? Well, the jury is still out. Roshan.
Dr. Jaiswal, I would like to bring you here, and two, three very valid points General Katoch had highlighted. Firstly, the political stability of Nepal is also very important for India also, because if you see what has happened in China, what has happened in Sri Lanka, what has happened in Bangladesh, so we are also a little concerned as far as Nepal is concerned. We want Nepal to be strong and stable. That's the first thing. Now, second thing, as we are talking about the Gen Zs and all, there is a change in political landscape. So there will be more youth representation. And inexperience is also a point which was highlighted by Jan Katoch. So there has to be a mix of what you experience and not so experience. So how this is going to come out, your views on that? And the one last point is Prime Minister Karki. What will be her foreign policy? She does not have any party base. So will it impact the government governance in terms of what kind of a foreign policy she has, or what will be the domestic priorities what she's going to have? If you can highlight few of those.
Thank you so much. As General Katoch raised, there are huge challenges ahead of Prime Minister Karki. It's a Herculean task that she has to deal with. Foreign investment, foreign relations, how they have to how they will balance the internal politics, or you can say power struggle between different political parties. Again, geopolitical that you raised on, there are huge challenges, and he rightly pointed out that they don't have experience, so that adds to the problem when we have more challenges and less experience. So that's there. On top of that, they also have extreme pressure from Gen Z, who might be demanding some unrealistic outcomes later. It can happen that, oh, why there is no corruption control in 2 months. They can raise those unrealistic, or why don't you bring some laws that you can put them on capital punishment for capital punishment for corrupt. All those unrealistic demand can also come on the street. So there are huge challenges, but I think that is where the country has to lead. And the time is 6 months that she has to deliver in a very limited time frame. So I don't deny on any of those. I think everyone knows that. Even Sushila Karki knows that she has to leave the office in 6 months, and how much she can deliver. Again, if she try to behave like authoritarian, suppose she can have a capital punishment for the corrupt, she knows that she will be leaving in 6 months. So how she's going to deal after that when the other political parties come to power? So there are multiple swords hanging on all the front. Briefly, I missed the foreign hand earlier. I think, yes, there are many commentators who said that there is foreign hand in Nepal. I don't deny to that. Tomorrow, if there is some evidence, I don't have access to that, I'll not be surprised, because Nepal is a very small country, and obviously there are major players. In fact, in all the major political transitions of Nepal, India has always supported us. So any political transition in Nepal, be it overthrowing monarchy or getting democracy or getting Maoist into power or any political process, we have got the support of India. So India has always played a role. Similarly, other players are also there at times. So there are lots of accusations on different countries. I don't have evidence. I'll not go for that. But I do not deny that there's no foreign interference. But let me check out who will be the largest winner in this. I think the largest, people are talking about US involvement. I think if it is US involved, the largest winner will be US in this whole process. Second will be India, of course, because we had unfavorable government who was raising all unrealistic demands. There was massive corruption, instability, and KP did not have good relations with Nepal, with India. So he had kind of played an important role in degrading the relation between two countries. There was not much investment coming on, and a whole country was in chaos. So I think in that sense, we have overcome that. At the same time, maybe relation between India and Nepal will improve. When it comes to Karki, I think since she does not have party base, she does not have ideological base, and she does not even have a greater mandate of connecting Nepal with the world, she might not focus more on that, because she has two major mandates: election in 6 months, and 6 months is not too far. because next 1.5 months we have festivals. We have got Dasera, which will be almost 1 month, and Diwali, and then we have winter. So it is not, and then she has to revive all the police posts that has been burned, everything that has been burned. She have to first clean it up, and which will take some time. So I think first 2 months she just have to do the cleaning process of Nepal that has been burned. So it's not lots of time. So I think she will not focus more on other aspect, but what she will focus is that she will continue to engage with the important countries. India is very important. Obviously, no Nepal cannot ignore India, because India is a major player. Tomorrow, if you have elections, you need support of India. You need support of other democratic countries like West and US. That will continue. She will not try to make anyone unhappy. She will continue to engage with India, US, and others. Probably there will be some setbacks from the Chinese side, because KP Oli was the favorite of China in recent times. He visited China recently, where he met Putin, Xi Jinping, and even Kim Jong-un, and he participated in a parade, anti-Japan parade. So he's like, he had good relations with China. So maybe, and there are news that His Holiness had for the first time wished the current Prime Minister good wishes. Even former Prime Minister of Tibet, Dr. Sangye, has also wished. So maybe that will try to create some kind of irritation on Chinese, but I don't know how they'll behave, but probably they will not be happy with that. So I think with India, there'll be excellent relations. There'll be no setback, because again, if she have to deliver on economic front and all, we need investment from India. Trade has to continue. Support from India are important. So I think that is how she will continue with the foreign forces. But the major priority is on the domestic sector, where she have to focus, and that is, I think, so we're going to focus more at the moment. None of the parties, or you can say actors here in Nepal at the moment, are looking at external factor. No one is bothered who is involved. It's US or other countries. What they are bothered is that people were frustrated, corruption was there, change has happened, and they hope for the best. That is the current situation at the moment here. Thank you.
Dr. Jaiswal, and can we take few questions?
Yes, sure, we can take few questions.
We have Jal Katoch, if it's
Yeah,
all
please,
right
please.
with you.
Yeah,
Okay.
please.
We've got a lot of questions. The first question is, it cannot be denied that the interim Prime Minister of Nepal comes with powerful credentials, being the former Chief Justice. What has changed on the ground? He says the American and Chinese are still there. I mean, you can...
I think the change is internal, because the whole movement was against corruption. So we can see some changes. We might expect some changes. We can't see immediately, but we expect some changes, that there will be some reform on governance, some control on corruption, a smaller cabinets. There might be even some constitutional changes where they will try to minimize the cost of feudalism. So those changes we are going to expect. When you talk about external factors, Chinese, or you can say Americans, I think they will remain, because Nepal do not have the huge capacity that you can overthrow them overnight. So I think we'll continue to engage with India. India is most important. We also have US is also important in Nepal, because you will be surprised to know that before the independence of India, we had already established diplomatized US. So the first country with which we established diplomatized was Britain, 1816, and that's why we are never colonized, because we already had diplomatized with Britain. We had joined hands when they were colonizing South Asia. So we remained independent because we joined hands with Britain, we signed Gorkha Agreement and all those. So 1816, then 1947 we had tied with US, and then India, and then other countries. France was fifth. So I think Nepal will continue to engage with external players. Obviously, how they play, how effective play, are their activities interest of India? That is another interest of Nepal, and does it hurt India? And all those are other which we can discuss on other days, which is more on geopolitics.
Yes. Jal Katoch, would you like to add anything, or should I take another one?
No, I think Dr. Jaiswal has covered it very much.
Okay.
That's the way it is.
Okay. The second question is from Lieutenant General Dushyant Singh. He's the DG of CLAWS, and he's asking, how does the Gen Z looks at prevailing India-Nepal relations, especially the stand on perceived disputes?
Actually, when we say Gen Z, we have to understand there are not one Gen Z. Gen Z is youth group, and more than 10 groups came and organized the protest. They have not formed a party. When they had to ask one representative to join the negotiations, they went in a group. So there is no one Gen Z who has joined the protest. Even they don't have one ideology. All the Gen Z has come from the same political families. The Gen Z's father are in Nepali Congress, UML, some might be royalists, some might be Maoist. So the same ideology are there. So if you look at youth, they have all kind of ideology. The difference between Gen Z and political party is that political parties have ideology. Gen Z has no ideology or diverse ideology because they are in different groups. Only difference is that they say whatever ideology you cover, don't do corruption. So they are asking their uncles, aunts who are in different parties. You bring Maoist, you bring communist, you bring democracy, you have your Nepali Congress. I'm fine with that. Only don't do corruption. So Gen Z has nothing to talk about foreign policy. Gen Z has not much to talk about economic policy. Gen Z do not differ on any of the party's ideology. What they have differences is that you do whatever you want. There should be no corruption. Number one. Number two, have some good governance. So when you talk about corruption, when you control corruption, when you control good governance, I think in that sense, obviously Nepal and India relation will be improved. Because it's corruption, or you can say lack of governance, brings corruption, those kind of activities. Like, I think one of the major reasons that has disturbed Nepal India relations is one of those factors, because the leaders are so corrupt that they do not put the right people on the right place. And when you don't have right people in the right place, we have all kind of problems, including one in foreign policy. So I think I think they will continue to engage with every player. They have not made any statement on any countries, and I don't think they will make such a statement, because as I understand, their main core focus is on the domestic front at the moment. Thank you.
Gen Katoch?
Yeah, on this, primarily it was the previous regime which actually put Lipu Lake onto the dispute, and they changed the maps. You see, now for any subsequent government really to undo that will become a political issue. This issue is going to remain live. A problem which didn't exist has been created, and you have made it official. And when the former Prime Minister of Nepal made it official at his own behest or for whatever political reasons he had, for any subsequent government to undo that now, will look as if they are bowing down to India. And that will become an issue. This is not going to go away. It is going to remain a very serious issue. The Gen Z protesters, I don't think they were aware of any of these issues. They were fighting, as Dr. Jaiswal has said, on two particular issues, on corruption and governance. That is fair. It slipped out of their hands, somebody else to control. That's a given. But on foreign policy issues, on the nitty-gritties, no. I don't think any of them are aware, and very few of them will be able to even pinpoint Lipu Lake on the map. Roshan.
There's another question. Was there a triopoly between the three left parties and no other opposition ideology parties or Gen Z were able to gain power? Or is this wrong?
No, there's some confusion. What happened is that in this term, when we had election, the first it was Maoist and CPN UML, two communist party formed the government. After a few months, again Maoist and Democrats, Nepali Congress formed the government. And recently we had Nepali Congress and Oli's left party in the government. So what we have seen is that there's all kind of cocktails, Democrats and communist and Democrat, all kind of cocktails has happened. So what we realized is that when these leaders have certain interests, they can join hands together. When they have vested interest, when there is sharing of power, when there is sharing of constitutional positions, they come together. But when there's anything of national interest, they do not come together. So what they accuse them is that in corruption, in power sharing, in all kind of aspects, you come together. But when it comes to delivery, you accuse each other. So that is the major differences where Gen Z share. That all kind of cocktails, musical chair and all has not served Nepal's interest, and this has brought instability. I mean, in 3 years there was 3 government, so that kind of instability is not in the interest of people, and no one is addressing the demands of the people. There was corruption visa issues. There is corruption in refugee issue. They're making Nepali as a refugee, they're sending to US. So all kind of corruption at highest level. Many of our home ministers, which are very powerful, are in prison, are in jail, or they are on bail. So this is a situation here that the most powerful home ministers are in jail. People know about it. They get bail, they're out. So, but this was a situation where people are so fed up with that. Like, look, I'll give you an example. First, in Nepal, there's no opportunities. They go abroad. It's not easy to get many things. It's very challenging. Again, from abroad, you send money back home. You save it in cooperative, small banks. Again, those funds are emblazoned by the corrupt people, politicians. One of the home minister is in jail at the moment because he has taken all the money of the cooperatives, which are small, poor people's bank. So if you want to save money, leader can loot you. They can't give you good life in the country if you go abroad and earn money. So this was a situation. You can't save your money in the country. If you go abroad, it's not easy. Again, when you come with money, if you want to work here. So this was a vicious cycle where you can't live in the country, you can't go abroad. So this was the kind of trap that people were suffering at. And the leader were not ready to accept those things. Rather they were putting all their luxurious life on social media, how they have one, look at the cars. I think many of the Indian politicians do not have those kind of expensive cars that we have. I'll give you one example. In India, one Tata Nano cost 1 lakh, which is almost less than 2 lakh Nepali rupees. In Nepal, it's 7 lakh. One Tata Nano costs 7 lakh, it's almost 5 lakh Indian rupees. Now, where is that money? It goes to the state. What they do with that? They buy Land Cruiser. The cost of a Tata car is as equal as BMW in India because we have 250 tax, 250%. And all the luxury cars are with the prime ministers and ministers. So the country is poor, but the state was having such a luxurious life that it was irritating the people here. So that is the major irritation, frustration that exists here in the country. Thank you.
Jal Katoch, I would like to ask you this question first, and then we can go to Dr. Jaiswal. Nepal is basically sandwiched between Bharat and China-occupied Tibet. If Nepal calls itself a Hindu Rashtra, then why does it favor China? The Chinese have no gods. Mr. Thanani wanted to ask.
I think, let me be very clear and very frank on this. Actually, sometimes we think that our relation with China is exaggerated. There is always a comparison between India and China. It's non-comparable. You are comparing a mountain with a small stone. Because we have India on three sides. And if it is, you have to think, if you think that Nepal being a Hindu state where we have cultural affinity, cross-border marriages, India is a major donor, in spite of that, if Nepalese are going to China, there is something wrong and something very serious. I think India has to spend billions of rupees to find that region. Because if you're not doing that, there's a greater risk. Because if you have side border, open border, where Chief of Army Staff of Nepal is already Chief of Army Staff of India, and vice versa, where you can marry people from each country, where our currency is pegged, where Nepalese are serving Gorkha regiment, if we have that kind of special relations, where many of the Nepalese are in Nepal who have served Indian Army, in spite of that, if you think Nepalese are going to China, why is the biggest question, and I think every Indian should think of it. But that is not so grave. We are watching Republic TV so much, I think. So that is one. I think we really have to think that there is no comparison. We have very special, very unique relation with India, 80% trade, all special in security. We rely on Indian security. We have open border, cross-border marriages. Almost every house has someone who studied in India. I've spent more than 10 years in India. All my sisters have studied in India. They've all been a doctor in India. My father studied in India. And so this is very unique. And you're comparing with some country called Chinese where I don't like noodles, I don't know Chinese, and I might not speak any of the words, I might not have visited, but we do trade. Why we do trade? Because every country in this world trade with China. Who are the largest trading partner of China? US, Japan, India, Australia, Europe. It's like Quad. So all the enemies of China, quote unquote, are trading with China, and China is also trading with enemies. So we also try to have economic engagement, because we see that when the enemies are engaging with China on economic front, why should we not try? Because we are a poor country, we are more poor than India. If India can have 100 billion or whatever trade with China, why can't we have 100 million trade? Because we don't have border conflict with China, we don't have bitter relations. At least we are too small to compete. At least India and China can do that. Australia can do that. Japan and Chinese hate each other. In spite of that, they are having better trade. So we are trying to have trade with China. But these are business companies or trading companies that create all those noises that you can see, which is very unfair. And I stand with that. That I think Nepal should engage with China economically, because China is an opportunity to the world. Every country are engaging. First. Second, how did China got that space is a bigger question. It is India who had given that space. It is America who has given that space. Europe, when Europe started declining, it was initially Africa. Who covered Africa? It was Europe. Who was in South Asia? It was India. So when these countries, India, when these Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, these countries have new aspirations, new desires. India is rising, and we see we also want to rise like India. We also want to shine like India. We also want to have GDP growth like India. And India is saying, please wait, I'm developing faster. I have to compete with China. I have to compete with many Japan. I have to be more powerful. Give me a few seconds. And the country is saying, no. I have no time to give you a few seconds, because there is huge pressure for youth in my country as well. So I need economic development. So in the meantime, when you are taking a second, let me take another second with Chinese, because you are doing the same thing. That's why now Chinese are in Latin America, Chinese are in Africa, Chinese are in South Asia, because every country has intense pressure for development. And not only this country, even India. Why India is engaging with China? Because India need development. India need economic engagement with China. Why US is not stopping trade? Because US needs China. So that's why we are mixing two aspects. Economically, China and Nepal look very goody-goody, but we have vast difference in our political system. One is communist, we have a democracy. Politically we are different, culturally we are different, on security we are completely different. So that is the major difference. So when you put everything in the basket, you look like that, but it's not. It's a vast difference. That's why you said you say Nepal has gone into China's lap, and all of these are all rhetoric. Nepal has not gone into that to that extent. But yes, there are some attempts made sometime by Chinese, and that worry us at the moment.
I agree with what you're saying. But I would also like to take General Katoch's view on this, because we know one thing, that when we do trade with any country, we are very transparent about it. And whenever we have done trade with anybody, there's not a debt cycle which starts, which we have seen with China when it was doing it with Sri Lanka or with Pakistan. So I would like to get in General Katoch here. And also there is a question for you, General Katoch. As you mentioned, everyone is upset about what the Gen Z did in Nepal. But didn't the same thing happen in Bangladesh also? What's the difference? And this question has been asked by Gitanjali Raj.
Okay. The first thing is about, Nepal's relations with China. I think Dr. Jaiswal is right. They are an independent country, and they must trade with everybody. They must have good relations with China. I've got no doubts about that. And I don't think that is my concern, really. My concern is that when Chinese, they've got vast resources, and they pump in money into some sectors. And that sectors they give to certain influential parties to influence opinions, influence operations. They're pretty good at it. And there are some political leaders who will be prepared to sell their country to gain that money. We have seen it in Sri Lanka and Hambantota, how they manipulated the deal. We have seen that in Bangladesh, and they're attempting that in Nepal. I don't blame the Chinese. The Chinese will do everything in their self-interest. I just think that Nepal should be careful of falling into a debt trap from the Chinese side, because it's very difficult to get out of it then. That's all. As far as the people-to-people relationship are concerned, come on, there's no doubt that family relationship will trump everything else. The Chinese don't speak the language. They don't have the culture. They're totally different people. So to that extent, I really don't think there is a concern. The concern is within the politics within Nepal, which tries to play one against the other, certain political groups. And they do that for the vote banks. I think, it doesn't hurt India that much. It hurts Nepal much more. And I hope that they desist from it in future. Concentrate on your people, and get them up. Nepal can be a very rich country. It is, in fact, Nepal is a very rich country with poor people. That's the way I look at it. Regarding the protests, you see the Bangladeshi protests, from the very day they started, it was made up. There was no cause. Poverty is there everywhere. You go to any part of India, there is some village which is poor. People don't come out on the streets and start killing people. It doesn't work that way. And poverty is not going to go away with that. What has happened in Bangladesh is a shame. It has taken a completely communal color, and a person who has got no credentials has been put in at the head of the government. In Nepal, you have got a very respected person at the head of the government. In Bangladesh, you got a convicted criminal. Yep, you gave him a prize. That's all right. You gave him a Nobel. You gave him a Nobel to sell his own country. And he is a stooge of the Americans. He is their boy. And he admitted it himself when he went to the United States. All those pictures with him with the American leaders and him stating so publicly. In Nepal, I think, you see, listen, a protest like this, it has to be funded, it has to be organized. So you create a movement and then the movement is taken over. That is what has happened here. They will come to the truth of it in some form of time, hopefully. But I hope better sense prevails, because governance is a different issue. And they have got 6 months. As I said, don't worry about foreign policy. India is there, we'll be your friends. They can continue doing other things. I don't think China is going to interfere too much. The Americans may. They want to keep the Chinese out. So there is a game being played out in Nepal, in those mountains, between the United States of America against China. That is the sum total of the foreign policy angle. But Nepal will overcome that too. It is a question of timings. These 6 months are critical for them. Just keep your country stable. Keep it stable. Let the law and order be this thing. Let tempers cool down. Let wiser counsel prevail, and then get on to the economic bit. You see, it's going to be long. Nobody should think in terms of 1 year or 2 years. Give it a 10-year period. Can we change Nepal in 10 years? Can we give them? Can they give themselves a constitution which works? Ultimately, everything which happens in Nepal, each and everything, has to be led by the Nepalese themselves. Nobody should interfere in that. It is a Nepalese-owned, Nepalese-led, and a Nepalese-executed mission. Other people can come in to support them when support is requested, not otherwise. And with that, if they can get to some form of leadership with people of integrity, it will work. I mean, any country can be turned around if you have those people at the top. But that is a $1 million question. I mean, we've seen in India, some people who were crusaders, they ended up being the most corrupt. So it's, the jury's still out. What is going to happen? Let's see. But I hope Nepal stabilizes. That's the best I can hope for now. Roshan.
Thank you so much, both General Katoch and Dr. Jaiswal. We discussed so many issues, and Prime Minister Karki has a daunting task to do. But I'm also confident that she will definitely do it, and we are there to support Nepal in any ways, the way we can do it. So, Dr. Jaiswal and General Katoch, thank you so much for this podcast.
Thank you.
And I would also like to thank all our viewers, because they had put so many questions for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.